Fallout Equestria, The Crystal's Howling Dance. By Megaskullmon. Read by Forrest M. Chapter 15. Peace for a Time.
Peace is something that is very hard to keep, but war is so easy to bring.
Day 40. The Camp. I opened my eyes. I was put inside a building, it seems. We got some built, I guess. I slowly sat up, seeing Fleur laying by the floor with her gun. She looked towards me and smiled.
"Don't say a word. Your species came looking for you, so we placed you in one of the new buildings. Apparently, they still seek to kill you. So, Kip and Silvergunner are talking to them at the moment. They want the Howling Dance, but they're trying hard to not let them take it."
I got out of the bed and sat by Fleur, who smiled gently.
"I may look gross as a ghoul, but I still feel I kept my looks. Just not many would jaw-drop like they used to with me."
She chuckled softly.
"Oh well, I think I still got the ability to get what we need through talking to them."
I sighed softly and looked towards Fleur.
How long did I sleep?
Fleur blinks and thinks a moment.
"Oh, yes, a day and a half. But we didn't wake you and placed you in one of the new buildings. I found it interesting that they got this one built so fast, but that's because it was added on a formerly burnt, run-down building."
Nodding, I just sat there.
I wonder why my kind wants to kill me.
Suddenly, the door opens up, and the Elder is there, along with my father. I stood up, and Fleur got in front of me, and I growled softly.
"Taria, it's time for your judgment."
Fleur snickers and stares at the Elder.
"You have no right to harm her. You forced her out of her home. Now you want to kill her?"
The Elder taps his cane, and the large creature grabs his sword to attack Fleur. I grabbed the gun from Fleur's magic and shot his arm. My father groaned, and I stared at both of them.
You do not harm my friends.
I fired again into his other arm.
You both treated me like pure trash. You told me to find friends. Now you wish to hurt them.
I pushed my father out of the room and stared at the Elder, putting a gun to his head, my eyes full of hate and anger.
Give me one reason why I shouldn't kill your lying fucking ass right now. Maybe you could tell my father that you knew where the Howling Dance was the entire time. You forced exiles to give bodyguards to Wheeltread.
My father's eyes blinked.
My mother was sent away because she dared confront you about it. Get out now, you worthless piece of shit.
He spoke softly.
"I'm sorry, my daughter, but I already knew this. But it's not because of Wheeltread. It's a way to remove the weak DNA from our kind. We didn't do it because of this Wheeltread you spoke of. We did it because we wanted pure DNA."
My eyes go wide, and I grew very angry. But Fleur started speaking.
"You seem to forget. Your kind used to be ponies like me. There is no such thing as pure."
She snorts angrily. I took the butt of the gun and smacked the Elder across the face.
Go back home. Never show up here again. If you do, I will come and kill every single Elder. If you take the Howling Dance, I will kill every single last one of you. I protected these ponies here, and all the creatures. I protected them from fools like you.
The Elder sighs, and my father gave me a look.
Go, and I really will shoot and kill both of you. Then there will be less trash in the world. You two have no honor. Also, tell them the truth. That we are experiments of the war of the past. We aren't guardians of this world. We are just to save the pony way of life.
They both simply left, and I went outside to see them leave, and Bulwark said in a snarky voice,
"And don't come back! Lower the gate!"
The gate was then lowered. I sighed, and Kip trotted to me, and noticed that I was tense and growling. Fleur came up behind me, and I offered her gun back. She placed it in its holster with her magic. Kip used her horn to look at my wounds and noticed that my stress was on the edge.
Taria, please relax.
Kip looked at me with very worried eyes. I smiled and patted her head and gave her a tight hug.
I will. Just let me enjoy some peace. I just need peace.
Kip frowned, looking up to me with soft, gentle eyes.
What's wrong now?
Kip softly spoke.
Does this mean that me, Shadow, and Silver Gunner don't bring you peace?
She said it like she was about to cry. I blinked and looked at Fleur, and she gave me a sly smirk.
Oh, Kip, you three are my closest friends. You three saved me from a lifetime of loneliness.
I gave Kip another hug, and apparently I didn't catch this, as she gave Fleur a sly wink and she giggled. I then stopped hugging, and Kip chuckles. Now I need to get back to keeping my new little brother in line. I blinked, watching her trot off to talk to Shadow. It seems those two consider each other siblings.
What happened to her husband?
He went back to Manhattan to get the rest of the ponies out of those apartments. He wants to get them away from the Enclave.
I gave a calm nod and stayed close to Fleur since she was being my bodyguard. Also, I wished to know more about the past, if she would tell me about it.
Fleur, do you think we should clear the bog and remove all the ghouls there as well as those giant weevils?
She gave me an odd look, blinking, and shrugs.
I don't know. Maybe having those ghouls there is a good thing. But about those weevils, I do agree. Maybe we need to get a group to clear out their caves. But there are more creatures in that bog that release that strange mist that causes us to see the past. I do see that seeing the past is not a bad thing. But again, to some, the past wasn't all that amazing. Before the war, the world was amazing. Equestria was the land of friendship and harmony.
I sighed and looked at Fleur and wrapped around the ghoul and gave her a hug. I didn't care about the smell, but she blinked and had a soft smile on her face, and I stopped hugging her.
I feel you deserve to be in the past, Fleur. You shouldn't have to deal with what you see here. Equestria was your home. Now, you're just another great pony of the past.
I gave a soft sigh, and Fleur just smiled softly and shook her head.
You worry too much about how I feel, Taria. I have accepted that the war destroyed my former home. I can't just sit by and let it happen to others. So I'm going to be someone that protects this new little town. I will be here a lot, just because you and your friends opened my eyes, along with my crew. You proved that not every pony or creature of this new world are power-hungry children. I gave a gentle smile, feeling very happy that I did this for so many. I looked at the others who are working on getting the buildings up, and I sighed softly and blinked, seeing another trader walk in. Excuse me, Taria. Let me take care of this.
She trotted over to the trader as Bulwark and Patch held weapons close to them, as they acted as guards towards Fleur, as I just watched to see how the master does it. I got closer to listen, leaning on the wooden wall. I got to listen to how she talks to traders.
Welcome to our beautiful home, miss.
The trader mare smiled softly, nodding. Thank you, Miss Ghoul. Now, I heard that this area was cleaned out of the raiders and everything else that used to come here, so I came down this way to see what I can offer, or be offered. Fleur nodded and chuckled.
Well, we haven't named our little town yet. That will come soon. But first, we got to rebuild. That will take some time, and a lot of materials as well. But I'm sure they will welcome every trader in this town.
She nodded, showing a soft smile through her ghouled flesh. Again, her beauty was amazing, for a ghoul. The trader nodded and looked towards Patch and Bulwark. You got some very protective guards here. Bulwark gives a nod and nickers a bit. That's because we had to deal with the Enclave, and we got rescued, just because they pissed off that wolf behind us. The trader looked up, blinking, seeing me, and I gave a smile. Oh, it's the wolf. So you're a hero after all, She gave a soft smile. I snorted and chuckled.
I don't consider myself a hero. I did what I felt was the right thing to do. I'm not fond of ponies. I never will be. But Fleur is helping me through that. I owe her a lot for helping me gain the heart to not murder every single pony I came across. I did it to save my friends. Then, I made more.
I looked over to Patch, who I still didn't trust, but I gave her a calm nod. The trader smiles, nodding. I see. I shall speak to the other traders that I come across. I'll try to bring more this way and try to make this a normal stop. I gave a soft smile, nodding.
There used to be gardens here as well, but the Enclave burned almost everything just to get to this stable in there. We don't know what is so amazing about that stable, but I wish to keep it closed. I don't know. Might be that some want to open it up, but I'm not sure that is wise, really.
The trader nods with a smile. I agree. Not all stables are wise to open up. Fleur nods as I went silent to let her speak. She gave me a soft smile with her features as she seemed to be a soft-hearted mare.
Now, do you have anything we could trade or buy from you, miss?
The trader uses her horn to let down her bags as Fleur looks through them with her horn, finding mostly food seeds and some potions, as she looks through her own bags to find some caps and something to trade along.
Ah, I see you have seeds. Maybe we'll just take the seeds. I need to check our stores of potions and bandages, but still, the seeds will be useful.
The trader nods and pulls out a big bag of them and places them on the ground. For free. She takes the rest back into her bag. I don't do that often, but you ponies made Reaper Fields and this area safer. It's the least I can do. She smiles to her protector, the large bear, and walks out, heading back through the bog. Fleur smirks and lifts up the seeds. She trots over to the ponies working on fixing the burnt garden. She offers them the seeds, and they blink. Oh, me, so good, ja. The mare sounded interesting to me. She had a knife on her flank, and the other was a twin of hers. She had a bloody knife. Ja, more seeds to feed us. We shall plant right away, ja. I chuckled softly, and then looked to Bulwark and Patch.
I trust you both, so you know.
Bulwark blinks and gave a gentle smile and nods. Patch just snorted and shrugged. Yeah, it's better than being dead on the ground. I nodded calmly and looked around to see how every pony was, and I went to help those building. I helped Shadow and Kip, while Kip gave me a look.
Kip, I wish to help.
Kip keeps giving me that look and stares at me with great anger. Taria, you haven't been resting. You could get hurt. She was being her motherly doctor self. Then she stared, giving me that look again. Looking to Fleur, who trotted over and chuckled. She pulled me away with her magic, and I sighed, looking to Fleur.
I would say listen to Kip, Taria. She knows what she's talking about.
I sighed, shaking my head.
I'm tired of just resting. I want to do something.
Fleur gave me a gentle smile and laughed. She pushed me out of the town gate and looked back to Bulwark and Patch.
She needs to get away from all this for the moment. I will call you when to open the gate when you can.
They both nod as I looked to Fleur and blinked.
Fleur? What's wrong?
Fleur turned to me and smiled.
Look, do what they want you to do, because you might lose them sometime. Like with me. I lost everything, Taria. My family, my love, my home, just because I didn't wish to be part of the war. I wanted my fancy to come with me, But of course, he was too hateful of my reasons. You need to stay. For them, Taria.
She smiled softly. I looked into her eyes and sighed. How could I say no to some pony who lost all of her friends and family just from a war in the past? I didn't know how to think at the moment. I followed her as we walked around the bog.
Take a deep breath, Taria.
I took a deep breath and then closed my eyes a bit and opened them, blinking, seeing the past. But they're solid.
Fleur, what am I seeing?
I looked at her, and her horn was glowing.
Just watch closely. You will see how it was.
I looked at the ground as the ground turned green as I kept breathing in the fog, my pitbuck ticking up to show this fog was toxic. But I watched as the ponies went along slowly. Fleur spoke softly, as like she was explaining.
200 years ago, this is how Equestria used to look like. I know, it's hard to see, but I learned that this fog, if you breathe in too much, will allow you to see this. But it also might cause you to take in too much of the fog and make you a bit sick. But just keep watching. Look at the ponies of old. So full of happiness, so full of love. The princess gave us so much. There was peace for a time, peace in our hearts. But the issue with peace comes hardships. We had our share of villains to deal with, but as the mares that saved us, that dealt with Nightmare Moon and Discord, we caused our own issues.
I watched as the mares fought those in question. I had no idea how this was happening, but my pitbuck kept ticking. But then her voice started to get more and more sad.
Then the war started. Fancy and I fought for many days, because I felt after Little Horn, we had to stop this war. It wasn't their fault that they did that. It was ours. We deserved every moment of it. We could have put a stop to this war, but our leaders felt that we had to keep pushing it, to put off the propaganda that you see all over the ruins. Pinkie Pie watching you forever. That mare. She was not some pony I really cared for.
I started coughing as the vision left as the fog started to mess with my body. Fleur looked at my pitbuck and her eyes went wide and rushed me back inside. She forced me on the chair and rushed to Kip, asking if they had some Radaway. Kip nodded and rushed inside the cave to find some. I sat there, feeling my body in pain. The fog did seep sometimes into the town, but it seems the crystal would soak it through the glass and glow brightly. But it didn't affect anyone on the outside because of the glass. The glass kept the effects from harming anyone, but it made it so the fog wouldn't harm anyone at all. I sat there, feeling my body burning, as Kip rushed over with the fluid and forced me to drink it, as I washed it all away. She looked at me with very angry teal eyes, tears falling from them, as she poked me with her hoof. "You could have told us!" she yelled. She was getting very angry and shaking. I could see it in her body motions as her eyes filled with tears. "You just came back to us, Taria. You could have died. Don't you ever think of anyone else? How we'd feel?" Others look at us, and Kip's tears drip from her face to the ground. And I just wrapped around her, hugging her tightly, as she started to sob and cry. Shadow looked to the others. Back to work, let them be. Fleur sat and watched, as Kip drained her heart and soul and her anger. She started hitting me in the chest with her hoof. "We care about you, you dumb oaf!" She sobs and sniffs as I pulled her away a bit.
"I know, Kip. I'm sorry. Please relax."
Kip kept sobbing hard as she sat on her haunches, and Fleur calmly used her magic to pull Kip away and whispered to her and pointed her hoof over to Bulwark.
Go talk to her. Relax. With her and Patch. Please, Kip.
Kip nodded and trotted over to them as they started talking, and Bulwark just gave Kip a tight hug and nuzzled her friend. I sat here, needing to rest again. It was peaceful for the time being, before some other horseshoe or shoe, whatever dropped. It's getting to the point that I felt many of us needed to stay alive as much as we could. I looked towards all the ponies and griffins, but I lost sight of Silvergunner. Oh, he had ponies pull out the shut-down RA Proto. He brought the large robot beside me, as Fleur didn't seem to care for that thing, but she kept her mouth shut.
Ah, hello, Taria. I am just here to reprogram this thing. Also here to help Fleur keep an eye on you. Can't have you being stupid now,
He chuckles robotically. I gave him a nasty look, and he chuckles again as I leaned back and watched him work on the robot.
Why are you trying to bring that thing back anyway?
We need more than one guard inside the town. Ponies will think twice if they come in here thinking of robbing the place. So, going to use him as one that will keep an eye on everything.
I sighed and closed my eyes a bit to relax as I listened to everything around me. Then I heard a song. I looked towards the former slaves. One was a slim hellhound helping with the hammer, as well as ponies that are former slaves. I gave a soft smile as I watched them help build and sing. It brought a calm setting to the once dead town. I watched as ponies carried the bodies of the fallen of both sides to bury them. The Rack Reapers helping same with some of the raiders that lived. Dumbbell. I haven't seen him for a while, but I'm sure he's doing fine. I hope, at least. The Junk Reapers were on the walls, removing the turrets from the inside of the cave, and brought them outside to place on sections of the wall to keep their traders protected. Monty Hoof went back, but left some of his ponies behind. The turrets seemed to be old, but still usable. I don't know why they moved them, but I guess the outside needs to be protected more. I sighed and stood up, or tried, as Fleur let me this time, and she followed me, of course. I went to look around the gardens to see how everything was going along. I smiled at the gardeners, who just gave me some looks, but they smiled too. They didn't seem used to the kindness. And then I went to the gate to hear Kip talk, and she turned to see me, her eyes full of rage.
Kip, I am fine. Please, let me just walk around for a bit. I can't just be sitting forever.
Bulwark gave her a gentle hug. I agree. Kip, just let her walk around a bit. Maybe it'll be good for her. Kip sighed, nodding, and looked to me with a smile. Patch was looking over the gate, and she had a sniper, watching. Bulwark, we have 2 Steel Rangers coming. Bulwark's eyes go wide, and she climbs up the gate to see for herself. As they got closer, Bulwark called out, Hey, Rangers! We don't trust your kind here. One of them laughed softly. The armor was red. Not even Applejack's Rangers? Bulwark growled, showing her teeth, and her horn glowed brightly, holding her gun. I don't care who you are. You're still Steel Rangers. Now tell us what you want. I only will trust the 3 of your kind, but they aren't here. So now, again, why are you here? One of the Applejack Rangers removed their helm, showing a pure green mare unicorn. I am Paladin Lily. This is Scribe Firebloom. We are here to study the stable. I climbed up the ladder to get to the top of the gate and calmly spoke.
What do you mean by study?
The mayor spoke calmly. Our info about this camp. The wardens placed seals on the stable door to keep it closed forever. We think we can break the seals and open it up. Now I know you don't have a reason to trust us, but there might be something very important inside. I sighed and looked at Bulwark and talked softly to her.
What do you think? If we just allow them to do that, and go nowhere else in the town but there?
Bulwark gave a nod. You will be watched, and if you do anything we don't like, we will remove you, and if you put up a fight, we will kill you. Deal? The two rangers look to each other, and they both nod. The mayor spoke up. Deal. Bulwark talked to the unicorns at the bottom, near the gate. Open the gate! The gate opens up, and the two walk in. I get down from the gate, and Fleur stood beside me.
I will lead you there.
The two rangers look to Fleur, and the mayor gives a nasty look to her. Fleur just gives a sweet, innocent smile.
Also, don't cross her. She may be a mare from the old Canterlot days, but she will kill you.
The two look at each other. As I lead them inside the cave, there are still bodies of Enclave and the mares blink. Enclave used to be in here? I nodded.
They took over the area for a while. I gathered an army to come in and remove the worthless trash. I did it to save my friends. Ponies that wish to harm others are just trash and deserve to die.
I led them to the stable, and the mare puts her hoof on it, and her horn glows as the seals form and glowed brightly. I blinked as Patch came in to stand guard. Watching the two, I blinked. The mare looked to me and smiled. It will not be easy, but we will be studying it. I sighed and left with Fleur, but I noticed the bar was open, even if half in ruins. I went inside and saw that the tender was still there. The tender standing there was a pink mare. I sat on the stool, and the mare smiled.
Ah, the savior of our little town. What would you like? Whiskey?
I thought for a moment and shrugged.
Got any sparkle cola?
She nodded and opened a case in the back and brought out a bottle. I gave her some caps and drank from it, as Fleur sat there and seemed to speak to another bar patron, a former slave. I drank the drink and sighed.
So, miss, what is your name?
The mare looked towards me and smiled.
I am Bubblegum. Basically, I was kidnapped from my parents at a young age and ended up here. So, to help ponies here, I gave them drinks and food. Oh, and we do have meat if you want some.
I blinked.
Oh, sure. I'll take any meat you have.
Bubblegum smiled and set down a large plate of cooked meat.
It's pig meat. Since you seem to be a meat eater, you won't have any issues eating it.
I nodded and set down more caps and started to eat and felt happier after getting more meat in my system. I looked over to Fleur, watching her talk to the pony. I listened for a time, but I just kept eating, closing my eyes softly, and sighed. I looked around at the ruins, as some were in here to rebuild. I sighed. I felt I did the right thing. As I finished eating and drinking, I left the bar and walked around, looking at the ruins, seeing some Enclave bodies, and watching some ponies digging through the ruins to see if they could find any more under them. My ears heard something, and I rushed to the back of the cave, finding a little house that is caved in. I kept hearing it.
Mommy? Daddy?
I heard sobbing from there. I dug through the old house, not caring about how much pain I was in. I had to save the little one. I let out a howl that echoed through the cave as I was in pain. On the outside, Kip heard it and rushed inside. Fleur rushed out of the bar and trotted to me.
Taria, what are you doing?
Kip asked. I looked to her.
Shut up and get this child out of here.
She blinks and I dug through. Kip and Fleur lifted heavier boards as we dug through the building, and there was a storm door that led to the underground. I opened it, and inside was a little filly. She was pink, and Fleur helped her out. I held the little one close to me as she sobbed.
Shh, shh.
She screamed loudly, crying as two finally came out of the other side. They were searching for her.
Mommy! Daddy!
I let her down, and she rushed over to the raiders, and Kip had tears in her eyes, remembering that that's how she was raised.
Oh, thank you.
The raider mare spoke and kissed her daughter. The father nodded and hugged. I smiled. I felt I did something right. I felt my heart full of peace. But I looked down in there, seeing more little ones, dead. A lot of them didn't make it fast enough. I felt tears form in my eyes, but I knew we could never save them all. I closed the door, since I think that they were down there with their parents. I made sure it was locked, and I used my claws to put it on. The lost souls that sing to us every night. Then I walked back out as Fleur and Kip looked at it. I felt my heart in pain from seeing that. I walked out the back way and went outside to stand in the middle of the desert area I was in. Then I saw the sun come out. I got on my knees and closed my eyes. I softly sang my heart. I looked down. Tears were falling from my face to the sand. I looked up, seeing Cannonball, who smiled.
The young Taria has seen so much that her heart is shattering, my friend.
I gave a nod, and he helped me up.
It's normal, Taria. We try our best to protect the world and the ones we love. But some will be lost along the way. We can't always have our way and keep every pony or every one alive. It's not in our way of seeing things. We are fighters, protectors, and even leaders. Sometimes leaders fail, and they must fail to learn.
I stood up and smiled at Cannonball, and he chuckled.
I lost my best friend, Taria. Pothead. Lily has been by my side since we were chased out of our old home. She was the only friend who remembers who I used to be. The rest don't. My wife is dead. My daughter never met her, since she was killed during an attack on the Reaper Fields. But it's something that will be known, that we all can't just be everywhere, Taria.
I gave a nod.
Does it ever get better to feel the pain that you had in your heart?
Cannonball looked at me with a frown, shaking his head, and smiled.
Sadly, no, Taria. It will get harder. Every day, you will think hard on how you could have fought better, how you could have done it better. There are times you will even look at the gun and see how it makes you want to use it on yourself. But you need to be strong and try not to allow this to happen to you, Taria.
I sighed and smiled. I gave him a tight hug.
I'll head back in before Kip worries about me again.
I went back in, and Kip was rushing around looking for me, as Fleur just leaned against the wall and laughed.
I see you went outside. Also, Kip is going nuts trying to find you.
Kip rushed up to me and hugged me tightly. Don't ever do that again, please, Taria. I smiled and patted her head and went back out the other way. I closed my eyes, sighing. I knew, sooner or later, I'm going to do something I'm not gonna like. As I got back outside in the front, I saw more buildings being put up. I sat back in the chair to calmly rest my leg, and the one that was hurting, even though I had no leg there anymore. I just looked at everyone that was here. It was just starting to become calmer. I leaned back as I waited to see what would happen. I looked up into the sky to see the clouds, hoping that someday I will see the sun again. I felt the pain leave my body for a while, and then I looked down, seeing the little filly come to me and hug my leg as her parents smiled.
Oh, you're welcome, little one.
I patted her head and smiled.
I would do it again. Now go find a place to stay out of the way, okay?
She blinked and got on the chair with me. I may be able to walk on my hind legs, but I was sitting like a pony on the chair. I smiled and wrapped around the little one, protecting her.
I will watch her,
I said softly to the two, and they smiled as they went to go help work on the rebuilding. I stroked my paw across the little filly's head and nuzzled her gently. I looked back up, watching the ponies and other creatures walking around. And Fleur came back and gave the little filly a nuzzle and smiled to her. She may be a ghoul, but she still looked like a normal mare, just with drier skin. I watched as Fleur laid near the two of us, and I asked the little one something.
What is your name?
The filly looked up to me with a soft smile.
Starshooter, my mom named me. She may be a raider like Daddy, but she's calmed his raider heart. I love them both.
I smiled. I thought I would never hear that a raider's heart could be softened to make such a beautiful little filly. Then I looked over to Bulwark and the other guards.
Fleur, I think the main thing of this town should be protecting the future.
I looked down to Starshooter and wrapped around her, hugging her close.
For the future is what we need to protect, so they can help fix the mistakes of the past.